Welcome to Therapy Explained, where we explain, demystify, and destigmatize mental health and mental health treatment. I'm your host, Denise Pleiner. I'm a licensed therapist, group practice owner, and mental health educator and speaker. Today, we're going to be talking about coping tools for mental health, specifically affirmations for anxiety and stress. But before we jump into it, let's address the elephant in the room, but maybe more specifically, the room itself. If you're following me on IG or TikTok, you probably already know that I recently moved. So this is my new space. I'm still experimenting with which area in the office is going to feel the most comfortable and the best. I'll probably be posting on the community tab to have you vote to see whichever one you like better. So in the next couple of videos, you might kind of see me migrating and moving around. But also feel free to let me know what you think about it. I'm hoping that the lighting and the sound and everything is smooth and kind of working for our conversations, and I'm really looking forward to continuing our ongoing conversations on mental health. Another big thing that happened in my big transition from moving is that I realized how fast the channel is growing. We are about just over 9,000 subscribers in the channel, which is really exciting. It's always great to see that we're growing. A lot of you are leaving so many kind and encouraging comments that just motivate me to continue to make more content for you, for more information for you and education for you. And one thing that I'm more excited about in terms of subscriptions and the channel growing is that if we can hit 10K subscribers for this channel, I can start doing fundraisers for nonprofits, which, as you may or may not know, is something that I am very passionate about, is helping my community and communities at large, specifically those that are mental health focused. So I already have a few that I'm brainstorming on that I would love to reach out to partner with, but before I do that, we need to reach 10K. And of course, this is also something that you would have a say in. We can always vote on what nonprofit we would like to raise money for and try to make a big difference for our community at large. So if you want to join me, be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. 80% of you who watch these videos are not. So let's try to get that a little bit lower so that most of us are subscribed and are continuing to follow along through these conversations, and then we can make a larger change. Okay, so with that all out of the way, let's get right into the video. So one thing that we learn in our mental health journey is learning how to sit in discomfort. This is really challenging. It's kind of difficult, and yeah, it's always really helpful to have a therapist who can help you navigate that discomfort as you're processing, learning new things about yourself, and all that good stuff. And one of the really good things, or one of the best things that can help us along our journey in getting comfortable with discomfort, are coping tools, and they come in many different forms and in many different ways. Today, we are going to be focusing on affirmations specifically because I find that those can be really helpful and pretty easy for us to try to build, especially for anxiety and stress, which a lot of us experience. My hope is that this will become a series where we zoom into coping tools that most therapists tend to recommend or encourage you to try. The reasoning behind that, why are they actually helpful, and more specifically and importantly, why and how can they be helpful to you? How can you make the best of these? So as I said, today we're going to be talking about affirmations. But again, let's start with the basics. What are affirmations? So affirmations are statements that are meant to be grounding, encouraging, and calming to you. So they are usually a series of words, not too many, that you can repeat to yourself whenever you are feeling activated. They don't always feel true when you're first learning them and practicing them. Sometimes you'll find that you'll need an affirmation like, I know I'm worthy of love, I know I am beautiful, even though you won't 100% believe it quite yet. And I'll explain why this can be helpful and why you would choose an affirmation that doesn't feel 100% true quite yet. What tends to happen for us if we're struggling or learning how to manage our anxiety is how to address cognitive distortions. Now, I do have a whole video and I do have a list at my shop that you can download of cognitive distortions. It includes a brief description of what cognitive distortions are and a list of the most common ones. So if you're interested in that, I'll leave the link down in the description below for you to check out. But regardless, cognitive distortions are things like black and white thinking, or most commonly catastrophizing, so going to like the worst case scenario. And all of these thoughts can be very overwhelming. So we can practice some affirmations to bring us back to the here and now and to feel more encouraged to address and to confront whatever is happening. That can be very helpful in our journey. Why are affirmations helpful? Number one, it's the repetition of it. So this speaks to why you might be able to choose an affirmation that doesn't feel 100% true quite yet. And that is that we understand that the more that you repeat something, then it becomes a habit, and eventually it becomes an internalized part of who you are, an internalized belief of who you are. So if you're able to practice things like I'm capable, I'm smart enough, I'm worthy, repeating these things that might not feel 100% true quite yet, but over time it will because of repetition. This is part of what we also understand when we are going back into our past and understanding our childhood trauma, right? We talk a lot about how, what were the messages that I received about my worthiness, about my lovability when I was a child, right? And if you ask yourself those questions, then you can make those connections. What were you told about yourself? And it's very likely that now some of those are things that you do believe about yourself. So affirmations are a way in which you can counteract some of that and start to practice to have a more positive, a more grounding and encouraging internal dialogue, or a new way to talk to yourself. How do you get affirmations? Getting into the habit of using them. Okay, so now we know what affirmations are and why they can be helpful, but let's get to how do you actually use them? How do you get them in the first place? Now, you have a few choices. One is you can get them from social media. They're all over the place on IG, on TikTok. You can always save them on Instagram if you find a quote that you really like, or take a screenshot of it. Same thing with Pinterest. You can pin it. You can take a screenshot of it. Even on TikTok, people will post quotes or affirming statements on videos. And these are videos that you can, again, either screenshot the text of or save the video for yourself for a later time that you think you might really need them. And you can also Google them. People post them on blogs and post them all over the place. So you can also start your own collection by taking a screenshot of things or writing them down for yourself. Another option is to download some affirmation decks. They're available for purchase all over the place. I know some stores and some people who do have their own. And I actually have created a deck of affirmations for boundaries. So it's a deck of 50 affirmations for those moments in which you're struggling with establishing your boundaries or maintaining your boundaries. So right before you say it, if you're having a hard time with boundaries in general, this deck can be really useful. So it's available for purchase if you're interested. I'll leave the link down below, but you also don't have to buy them. As I mentioned, you can get them off like Instagram and stuff like that, or you can also make your own. You can even tweak some affirmations that you like, but maybe a few of the words kind of feel off, or you want to add something to it. So you can also make your own. Take some that you've seen and adjust them and tweak them to what feels good to you. If you're thinking of going the making them yourself route, some of the questions I encourage you to ask yourself is, one, what are these affirmations for? As I said, I have an affirmations deck specifically for boundary setting. So if that's something that you're struggling with, that's something that might be helpful for you to have affirmations for. So when I am trying to establish a boundary, what do I usually struggle with? What are the thoughts, the fearful thoughts that come up for me? So if you ask yourself that question, then the second question would be, what do I need to hear in moments like that? Or what is an encouraging, grounding, calming thing that I would say to somebody else if they were having that thought? And that would be your affirmation. If you're struggling maybe with self-esteem, or maybe you're having anxiety at work, or your relationships with your family, or maybe a relationship, a romantic relationship. Identifying some of these situations in which you would need them can be helpful so that you can build them for yourself. Here is how to make the best of these affirmations. Identifying those moments in which you might really need them is a good way to start building your own and even creating your own collection for them. If you're getting them off of social media, or even if you decide to purchase one from somewhere, knowing exactly what you need your affirmation for, or have a good idea of what you want your affirmation for, can be helpful. But knowing that situation is also good for you to prepare. So you got your affirmations specifically for that situation. Something that can be helpful is if you can anticipate that situation coming up, use your affirmations, right? Remember, repetition is important. So if you know that it's at work and it's whenever you're about to have a presentation, you start telling yourself, I'm gonna fail, everybody's gonna think that I'm dumb, or my boss is not gonna like whatever I'm about to turn in, then you can have your affirmations knowing that you're gonna turn in a project maybe like tomorrow, right? Then you practice these affirmations before you turn in that project to kind of already help you feel a little bit more grounded, so you can be proactive with using them. Another thing that you can do to make the best of your affirmations is to have maybe 2 or 3 that you kind of already memorize and consistently use. So some statements that you think could be helpful for you. For example, and I'm currently working on a self-esteem deck, so these are the ones that are coming up for me, but like, I am worthy of love. This body is for living, to help us with some of that body confidence. I am smart enough, I am worthy enough. Like, all of these things can be helpful for us to just remember 2 or 3 of these that we know feel really good and can be really encouraging, so that we don't have to dig through our affirmations deck or look through all of our screenshots for our affirmations. You already have a few that you know that work and you know can be helpful. And lastly, you can also try to build yourself a habit of using them routinely. And that can mean whatever it needs to mean for you. If this is a practice that you want to have every day, at least once a week, once every other week, whatever it is for you, that you can just practice these affirmations, and they're just kind of like little love notes for yourself. Maybe you go through your affirmations deck once a week, or maybe every day you pick up that deck and you look at it, or your screenshots that you took of all those affirmations, you just look at one and you read it to yourself, and you try your best for it to feel as true as possible, right? Because early on in our journey, they might not always feel true, even though they are. Well, I hope that today's video was helpful for you in your journey in creating your affirmations. I know sometimes they can feel really cheesy or just not true at all, but that's the wonderful thing about this journey itself, is that because it is yours, you get to tailor it to fit to you. So what do you want your affirmations to sound like? If you find one that kind of feels good, but you want to tweak a little bit, go ahead and do that. Make it your own. Find your affirmations that actually fit situations that you need and aren't just like a broad, life is great kind of situation. Because I think that's also something that sometimes we get into. We start thinking that affirmations need to just be positive statements about life, and not those like grounding things that are supposed to be also encouraging in this journey. Which leads me to my other point, and one of my last messages for you today is that this is a journey, so it will take time. Take baby steps and be patient with yourself. Thanks for watching today's video. Remember to give it a thumbs up if you liked it, or if you feel that you learned something, and remember to subscribe so that we can get to that 10K mark and start making a bigger difference. I'll see you in the next one.